You won't believe that some countries as beautiful as a postcard and full of wonders and rich culture can still make black travelers feel out of place, stared at, and even unsafe. Imagine this: you arrive at a dream destination, ready to enjoy the trip of a lifetime. But instead of warm smiles, you're met with suspicious looks, whispered comments, or an uncomfortable coldness. That initial excitement quickly turns into a mental challenge you never expected. In today's video, we're diving into the top 5 countries where black travelers are often not welcomed. This isn't a list to shame or discourage you from traveling, but rather a warning map to help you prepare, mentally understand the risks, and make safer choices for your journey. If you're someone who loves exploring the world but wants to travel with peace of mind, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the essential travel tips you'll definitely need. And now let's start with number 5, a legendary land home to the pyramids and timeless ancient wonders, but one that isn't always as magical for black travelers. 5. Egypt. Let's start with number 5. Egypt, the legendary land of the pyramids, the Sphinx, and the eternal Nile River. This is where human history is carved into stone, and millions of travelers dream of visiting at least once in their lifetime. But for many black travelers, the experience here isn't just about golden deserts and magnificent temples. Despite being on the African continent, countless visitors have reported feeling singled out and discriminated against. In fact, African students from West African countries even staged protests in 2022-2023 against racial prejudice. The stories they tell are troubling: the constant stares, as if you were some kind of spectacle, name-calling in the markets, taxi drivers or vendors charging you more simply because of your skin color. And some female travelers have shared how they felt harassed with unwanted comments during their stay. The deeper reason lies in colorism, the preference for lighter skin in Egyptian society, a mindset shaped by centuries of cultural and historical influence. For generations, lighter skin was often associated with higher status, and unfortunately, these outdated attitudes still affect people with darker skin tones today. So what should you do if Egypt is on your travel list? First, stick to major tourist hubs like Cairo and Luxor, where you'll find more international crowds and a greater sense of safety. Traveling in a group can also make you feel less isolated and protect you from uncomfortable encounters. And here's a practical tip: dress modestly and keep it simple to avoid unnecessary attention. Egypt remains the cradle of ancient civilization, a land that fascinates the entire world. But for many black travelers, it's a destination that requires a bit of extra preparation and patience. And if Egypt is still the heart of ancient Africa, then our next country is the bridge between Europe and Asia. Yet ironically, it's a place where many black travelers find it hard to breathe. 4. Turkey. At number 4, we have Turkey, a land between two continents, where the mystique of Istanbul reflects on the Bosphorus, where Cappadocia glows under thousands of hot air balloons, and where the Aegean coast enchants anyone who steps onto its shores. For many travelers, this is the bridge that connects Europe and Asia. But for many black travelers, the reality isn't always a fairy tale. In both the capital Ankara and the world-famous city of Istanbul, there have been multiple reports of black people being denied entry into clubs and bars simply because of their skin color. African expats also share that they are frequently stopped by police for ID checks, a very uncomfortable feeling when all you want is to enjoy your trip. A small 2021 survey revealed that nearly 47% of African students in Ankara had experienced discrimination, from suspicious stares to outright verbal remarks. For many visitors, this creates a constant feeling of being seen as different, and sometimes even being overcharged for services compared to locals or white tourists. So what's behind this Turkey is a nation shaped by major shifts, the influx of refugees from the Middle East and growing immigration from Africa have made some locals wary, even prejudiced. Combined with a rising wave of conservative politics, these attitudes have found more room to surface. What should black travelers keep in mind? The good news is that in popular tourist hubs like Sultanahmet or along the Aegean coast, the atmosphere is far more open and welcoming. These are the places where you can take photos, explore, and enjoy your trip without feeling too different. On the other hand, it's best to avoid going out alone at night, especially to clubs or bars with few international visitors. Turkey is breathtaking, a country where minarets echo alongside church bells, where East meets West. But for black travelers, it can also be a journey of mixed emotions, awe at the beauty and resilience in the face of unfamiliar stares. And if Turkey is divided by its geography and waves of migration, the next country lies right in the heart of Eastern Europe, a place of postcard-perfect history, but also chilling reports of cold receptions. 3. Ukraine. At number 3, we have Ukraine, a country of both romance and resilience. From Kyiv's iconic Central Square to sunlit Odessa on the Black Sea to the snow-capped Carpathian Mountains, Ukraine has long been seen as a hidden gem of Eastern Europe. But through the eyes of black travelers, the picture is not nearly as idyllic. International reports have ranked Ukraine as one of the least racially tolerant countries in Europe. And this isn't just on paper, it's reflected in lived experiences. During the 2022 evacuation crisis, many African students reported being denied access to buses and trains, while others were allowed to board ahead of them. For those caught in the chaos, it was a painful reminder that they were seen as outsiders, even in moments of shared danger. For black visitors, the experience often revolves around a sense of invisible isolation, the stares that follow you down the street, the sudden verbal insults, or the unspoken coldness in day-to-day interactions. The feeling of being labeled as foreign lingers with every step, making it hard to fully enjoy Kyiv's architecture or Odessa's charm. The root of this lies in Ukraine's social fabric, a nation that is still largely homogeneous with limited exposure to ethnic diversity. When difference is rare, it tends to stand out sometimes, drawing prejudice along with attention. So what should you do if Ukraine is on your itinerary? First, always travel in groups and avoid being alone at night. Choose accommodations in international districts or near major universities, where communities of foreign students can make you feel safer and more accepted. Ukraine may dazzle with its history, architecture, and natural beauty, but for black travelers, it often brings moments of coldness, not just from its winters, but from the distant stares of society. And if Ukraine has left us with a chill, then the next country takes us to the Mediterranean's dream destination, a land of endless sunshine, but one that also hides tensions you might never expect. 2. Greece. At number 2 is Greece, a country celebrated as the cradle of democracy, where the Parthenon still stands tall against time, and where sunsets in Santorini have captured hearts for centuries. For many travelers, Greece is the Mediterranean dream, golden sunshine, turquoise seas, and history stretching back thousands of years. But for many black travelers, that postcard-perfect image isn't the full story. In the aftermath of the migration crisis, Greece saw a rise in verbal abuse and even physical attacks targeting African communities. Social tensions spread, and the unfamiliar stares became something many had to endure on a daily basis. Beyond major tourist centers like Athens and Santorini, smaller towns with fewer international visitors often prove far less welcoming to black travelers. Some recount being refused service at cafes, or even being turned away from bars simply because of their skin color. And more troubling still, several assaults have been documented by international media, clear evidence that these issues go beyond subjective perception. Why does this happen? For years, Greece has been a frontline destination for waves of migrants from Africa and the Middle East. The economic, political, and social pressures have created an undercurrent of tension, leaving some locals to view different faces with suspicion or even hostility. So what can Black travelers do? First, stick to the major tourist hubs where international crowds create a safer, more welcoming atmosphere. Avoid venturing alone into quiet neighborhoods, especially at night. And whenever possible, connect with the African diaspora community in Athens, people who know the situation firsthand and can provide advice and support. Greece remains a paradise of ancient architecture, sizzling gyros, and endless coastlines. But for Black travelers, the journey sometimes comes with the feeling of walking carefully across a land charged with unspoken tensions. And finally, we arrive at number A, country that gave the world Tolstoy and Tchaikovsky, but where many Black people still live each day under a cloud of unease. 1. Russia, and at number 1 we have Russia, a vast land, where grand landmarks like the Kremlin Red Square and the legendary Trans-Siberian Railway have captivated travelers for generations. From literature and music to art, Russia has always carried the image of a rich and powerful cultural heritage. But for many Black travelers, the reality here comes with shadows that are rarely talked about. Reports show that open discrimination is not uncommon, from verbal insults and harassment in public to physical attacks where African students or Black tourists were the targets. Many have shared that they've been harassed or even assaulted, especially outside of Moscow and St. Petersburg, areas with fewer international visitors and far less diversity. For countless travelers, the most common experience is the constant feeling of being stared at. Long, unwelcoming glances, sudden name-calling, or even being refused service. Some have even been kicked out of clubs or bars without any explanation. The unease only grows knowing that far-right groups still operate in certain areas, making the environment feel heavy and unsafe. Why does this happen? In many parts of Russia, there is simply a lack of exposure to ethnic diversity. When differences are rare, they often stand out, sometimes turning into prejudice. And when small groups with extremist views feed into that environment, the sense of insecurity for Black travelers becomes even more real. If Russia is on your itinerary, here are a few important tips. First, always travel with a tour group, or in a larger group of friends. You'll draw less attention and feel safer. Second, avoid walking alone at night, especially outside city centers. And finally, keep in touch with your embassy or local international communities so you know where to turn if you need support. Russia is undeniably enchanting with its majestic architecture, world-class art, and vast landscapes stretching from Europe to Asia. But for Black travelers, the journey is not only about discovering wonders, it's also about testing patience and resilience in an environment that isn't always welcoming. And that's why Russia takes the top spot, the country where many Black travelers report feeling the most uneasy with every step they take. In summary, Egypt, Turkey, Ukraine, Greece, and Russia, each of these nations carries a rich history and breathtaking beauty. Yet behind the postcard-perfect image lie challenges that many Black travelers must face. The key is this: know before you go. Prepare yourself not to give up on the dream of exploring the world, but to embrace it wisely. Because at the end of the day, we don't travel to be afraid. We travel to learn, to grow, and to connect with the many different pieces of humanity. With knowledge in your hands and resilience in your heart, any journey can become a memorable experience, even if it's not always perfect. So what about you? Which country on this list surprised you the most? Drop the number down below and let's talk about it. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because the next video might just be the map that helps you choose your safest and most welcoming destination yet.